So let's talk about backspin. So how do you get the ball to spin? And it's one of the most common questions I get asked, and it's normally asked by someone that doesn't need to know, or they're kind of curious, but they think they might be able to start spinning the ball. But in general, most golfers, you simply need to be able to hit a basic pitch shot, basic chip shot, and a splash out of a bunker. You don't need to worry about spin. But let's talk about how spin is created. So let me use this next image. So we have something called spin loft. So spin loft is the difference between the dynamic loft, which is the loft which the club is at impact, and the angle of attack. So the steeper you hit down on the golf ball and the more loft you've got, the more spin loft you're going to create, which is the more potential to create backspin. Now, there is a point of diminishing returns on this. So if you create too much loft and too steep an angle of attack, there will be a point where you stop creating extra spin. But it's kind of the best way to think about it is like when you're hitting a shot if you're playing tennis. If you try to spin back a tennis ball with a racket, you're going to open the racket right up and you're going to try and cut down on that golf ball. So you've got lots of loft and you've got a steep angle of attack, and that's how you're going to get the ball spinning back. Now, it's not just a case of having loft and having an angle of attack that's going to create backspin. There's also other factors involved in this. So number one, you're going to need a new wedge or wedge with fresh grooves. The fresher the grooves, the more the ball is going to spin. So you think about tour players, they get a new wedge whenever they want it. They're going to have fresh grooves. They're going to be able to create spin. That's one of the reasons they create spin, along with many others. You're also going to need a decent golf ball. If I stood there on a golf course where the greens are the right condition for me to be able to create spin, if I had a range ball and a Pro V, the range ball's probably going to hit the green and stop. The Pro V's probably going to hit the green, and I could probably zip it back 30 foot. Now, that's two of the facts you're going to need equipment-wise. However, you're then going to need the course to be in the condition to be able to create spin. So the main question in this post was, how much of an effect do greens have on spin? Now, they have a massive effect. So number one, if you think about if the greens are too soft, like when you play winter golf or if it's really wet, the ball pitches on the green, it creates a big pitch mark, that it's going to kill the spin. Same thing as if the greens are firm, that first bounce isn't going to, it needs the ball to kind of be able to stick to a degree. Otherwise, the spin just kind of then it still goes through the green. It will still create a bit more stopping power than if you didn't have spin, but you're not going to be able to spin the ball backwards as such. So if you watch like links golf, that's why people tend to pitch the ball short, because the greens or the ground is firm. However, there's also other factors involved. So you've got the speed of the green. If the greens are slow or if they're quick, if you think about the ball, you're trying to get the ball to move back towards you, creating backspin. The quicker the green, the more momentum the ball's going to have. As soon as the ball starts moving backwards, it's going to have speed on it compared to if it's slow, so it's going to spin back more. You've also got the condition of the grass you're playing from. So if it's out of rough, obviously the grass is going to get between the club and the ball. That's going to create less friction. And even so you're going to need tight fairways, the kind of fairways that you'd get where most golfers would have a panic attack if they stood over the ball. So the tighter the lie, the more chance you're going to get a clean contact, and you're going to create more friction between the ball and the club face. And that's kind of the basics of how you're going to create backspin. So hopefully that helps.